Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We're really excited to have everyone on. As people get logged in and get situated, we want to make sure everybody can see the screen okay, make sure you have a chance to interact with us. A few housekeeping items before we dive right in. First off, if you're joining for the first time, we want your participation. We're going to show you how to participate with the webinar here in just a moment. This is intended to be a workshop, so we want you to be able to make comments, ask questions, things like that. Again, we'll show you how to do that here shortly. But for those of you that are wondering if you can rewatch this and be able to, share it with others, things like that, the answer is absolutely yes. We are recording this session right now. We'll be posting this on our YouTube channel later on today. If you're not already following us, make sure you go to youtube.com/Qolsys and you can subscribe to our channel. That way, all the videos that we create, as we make them public and upload them to that channel, you'll be able to get the access to them. There's an entire folder there called webinar recordings, and it will enable you to watch all the previous webinars we've done, as well as make sure that you're subscribed to the future ones that occur. This webinar, like all the others, will be uploaded to that same folder here shortly after this webinar is complete, and we will send you a follow-up email tomorrow letting you know how you can access that, and you have a direct link to it. So I want to thank everyone for joining today. I know there's a lot of people joining in from home, taking time out of their busy days, and we know that these are very unprecedented times, so we really appreciate your attention and the opportunity to talk to you. This is a follow-up webinar to the one we did last week. We did a special webinar about social distance installing and sales, not cells. And there was a lot of comments on, well, how do I do that? How do I put that in practice? How do I put these things into my particular scenario? And so we decided as a follow-up to really kind of give you a tactical hands-on opportunity to really understand how these things apply to you. And so we're calling it a workshop and not a webinar because, we're going to be introducing some facts and some tips and some ideas, some concepts and some processes. And we want you to be able to chime in and say, that works for me, or that wouldn't work for me. What do I do in my scenario? So please do that. If you can direct your attention to the GoToWebinar control panel you use to log into the webinar today, you should find a section called chat or questions. That's how you're going to interact with us. My name is Jeremy McLaren. I run marketing for Qolsys, and I will be helping to field those questions for Kevin. Kevin Woodworth, our Director of Technical Account Management, is going to be presenting the information today, and I will help to try and take your information that you're sharing, whether it's a comment or a question or something else, and sharing that with him so it can be part of the discussion today. We also have Jason Horton, one of our technical account managers, on the line today. He will also help to field those questions. So as you have a relevant question or comment, if it's something more technical that I can't answer or that perhaps isn't related to the general discussion, Jason will be helping to field those questions as well. So again, we want your participation. This is a workshop, not just a webinar. So please do that. I'd like to start with just having you practice. Tell us where you're dialing in from. Let us know. Are you working from home or are you still in the office? We want to know these things. Help us to see where you're at and what you're doing, and that will also help us know that you can actually chat in with us. It looks like Alex is coming in with RAB Security. Welcome. Tim Fagan from Advent in Philadelphia area. Great. Thanks for being on today. I also, Valerie from Dublin. Thanks for being in today, working from home. I think a lot of us are. As you can see, Kevin's in his living room, or is that your bedroom, Kevin, or is that your living room?
Bedroom. only quiet
I'm in my
place
bedroom as well.
It's the only quiet place in the house right now. So.
Yep, I'm the same thing. There's the bed. There's the I got a couple chairs in here. We've got a big window over here, and I can watch the kids playing outside. Throughout the workday. It's actually been really interesting to work from home because I'll be in the middle of a meeting. When the meeting's over, I get to go out, kiss a couple kids, grab a snack, and come sit back down. I could always grab snacks at the office, but there wasn't an opportunity to kiss a couple kids, so that's kind of nice. So hopefully all of you are adapting well to working from home and doing your things. Chris, I can see you're working from home. Thanks for joining in today from Toronto. Jeremy joining from Missouri. Todd joining from Joplin, Missouri. Chad from Lima, Ohio. There's so many people on today, and obviously we'd love to get to all of you in your comments, so please make sure everybody's taking time to learn things in the house. I totally agree. Mohammed from Ontario. So thank you guys, everyone, so much. Let's start real quick actually with a poll. We want to know so that we can help frame this discussion the right way. we need to know if you're currently a Qolsys customer, yes or not yet. If you are a current Qolsys customer, then some of the things we're talking about are probably going to be familiar to you. If you're not a current Qolsys customer, that helps us understand that maybe there's a couple things we want to make sure we cover as we're going through it. We don't want to, frame this only in a position that it's relevant to the people that are, current customers only. So make sure that we frame this discussion the right way. So really appreciate you guys. And it looks like the majority of you are Qolsys customers, but there is a significant percentage of you that are not. So if this is your opportunity to learn about us and learn about how we do things and learn about our company and what our products are like, first I just want to say welcome and really hope that you get the information you need. And if you have more questions or need more, type it in the chat. We're happy to help you with all of these things. This isn't just going to be a workshop for, those people wanting to learn about social distance installations, but this could be an opportunity for you to learn about our entire solution. And we've got people on the line ready to answer those for you. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and let's go ahead and get into the meat of our presentation. Again, this is Kevin Woodworth. He's our Senior Director of Technical Account Management. And Kevin is going to take us through this great workshop talking about how to do these social distance installations. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Really appreciate that and happy to be here. Like Jeremy said, well, up to last week's webinar where we really wanted to get hands-on and step by step and show you some of the nitty-gritty. So that's kind of the goal for today. We're going to be in and out of the presentation. We'll be in the alarm.com partner portal. We'll be handling equipment. So hopefully you can see the camera well as the screen, and we'll kind of jump right in. So if you joined last week, we introduced this concept of never open a box, and it's something we wanted to bring back up again today. Two meanings. One, we live in a world now, at least in the current time, where everybody's concerned about sanitation and virus and spreading and what you touch or don't touch. So that certainly has a one meaning. And then two, we like to think of it as scale, right? If you don't have to open a box, then that means you can do more in a day. If you're not spending time kind of going through small tasks, you can actually ship more equipment. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in the context today of the webinar. Some other different methods as well, some more involved methods where maybe you do want to open the box for a certain reason. Maybe you want to pre-configure a little bit further than you might otherwise. And so we're going to kind of discuss that today as well. Again, if you joined last year, we talked a lot about light glove, and we also talked a little bit about white glove. We're going to dive a little more into the white glove today and kind of compare and contrast these two concepts. There is a couple handouts in your dashboard or in your little control panel. One of the handouts is just a PDF of this slide. So if you want to have this, if you want to print this off, you've got that PDF, you can download that handout, and you've kind of got our concept of light glove and white glove there ready to reference at a future date and time. Now, there's kind of a lot going on this slide, and these are just two of the concepts that we thought of, but there's a lot of stuff in between here too, right? Light glove would kind of be on one hand, a very low touch or never open a box, and you're kind of pushing more off to the customer. So everything you're seeing in green here is something you would do as a professional security dealer. Everything in blue is something that the end user would do. And again, we did a light glove scenario last week, and then Jeremy actually installed it in his home as the end user. White glove, you can see that the you as the dealer, you as the security company would do a little more, and you're leaving a little bit less to chance with the customer. But the reality is that there's, I like to say there's a million ways to slice this. There's a lot of different lines in the sand you can draw, and you can mix and match these and kind of come up with your own process that works for you, your company, your customers, your business model, et cetera. And so we kind of present these two ends. Really, you can mix and match this as much as you want. And so we're going to kind of go through the individual pieces today, and ultimately you'll end up with maybe something in between. There's also kind of something else going on here that we're subtly showing, and that's up here in the upper right, up here where it says light glove. We kind of think that this might be better suited to a little bit lighter weight install. Maybe it's just regular couple Z-Wave modules. Whereas as installs get a little bit more complex, maybe they'd have Power G sensors, which are bidirectional, a mix of legacy sensors, some Z-Wave, some secondary keypads. As the installs get a little bit bigger, maybe some more pre-configuration on your part would help that go a little bit smoother. That's kind of another concept we're toying with here. Jeremy, I wanted to launch a quick poll. If you're familiar with white glove or light glove, or if you visited last week's webinar, we wanted to kind of ask you your thoughts. These are our two thoughts on what we think works well for you, or what we think. We wanted to ask you, if you thought about it, what do you think would work best for your organization? Do you kind of lean more towards the light glove scenario, or do you lean a little bit more towards the white glove scenario, or is it maybe somewhere in between, kind of a mix and match? I know a lot of you have been having these talks internally before our webinar last week, and certainly last week. We've received a lot of really good comments and questions via email and phone calls and other private meetings with many of you over the course of the past week or so. And so really interested to hear your opinions here. We're going to give it, we look like most...
Kevin,
go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Kevin, if you think about it, most people are, that are attending the webinar today are probably working for a professionally installed security company. And so to go all the way to light glove is a big departure for them. And so to move from light glove from full professional install to white glove is a little bit easier to digest, because they're thinking, this is more of what I do. This is more of what, my value prop is. And then of course, light glove is, very, I don't want to say hands off, because there's still a big hands-on component to it, but it's a harder departure for them. So I could see a natural progression, and we see that in some of the poll results here, where most people are saying somewhere in between, but there's a good percentage that are saying white glove, and the smallest opinion is light glove, and it's probably because it's such a far departure from the business model you've had up to this point that it makes sense that you maybe aren't quite used to it yet, and there's nothing saying that you have to do this kind of concept. This is, again, these are simply suggestions and ideas that you can implement. And, like any recipe, you can take certain ingredients from this and build your own meal. So.
Right, exactly. And one example I like of that a lot here is, up on light glove, we're kind of assuming, or we're saying, that the easy install wizard that's built into the panel is going to walk the customer through the installation process. But down here on the white glove, you're going to have the easy install wizard, and you're going to do a virtual pro install, which we're going to talk about later in the presentation here. But again, this concept of somewhere in between, maybe you like some pieces of white glove and you want to pull it up to a more light glove or a middle glove type experience. Again, you can really mix and match these pieces. So as we kind of shadow,
Frank's got a good question real quick, and maybe that goes perfectly into this this next little space. But Frank wants to know, why is light glove for S-Line and Power G as well? So why wouldn't you do Power G in a light glove scenario? And I think that kind of goes into the next slide, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think now is a good time to address that. So if you kind of analyze the light glove process, one of the things that we're doing is in this scenario is that we're saying pretty much all you're going to do is the IMEI, the panel, which we'll show you, and then you're going to ship the sensors to the customer. And as part of the easy install wizard, if you look here at this blue box, learn sensors here, S-Line learns really easy through the easy install wizard, right? You can either scan it with a QR code, so we're going to talk about this a little bit, but you can actually, we ship it with an actual QR code that the panel camera can read the actual sensor, and we don't have that yet on Power G. It comes with battery ready to go. Many of the Power G sensors don't have that yet, but that's something we're working towards. And so the Power G learn-in process is just a little bit more, it takes a little bit more of a pro in current state than I would say an S-Line sensor. And that's the only reason we're really we have these separated out. And so we're saying, hey, if you're doing Power G and you really like Power G, which we do, you maybe want to consider that in a white glove experience where you would prepare that for the customer. You would make sure it's up running and working, and then you would ship it as a functioning kit. That way they don't have to apart, they don't have to tamper it or press and hold and then roll buttons. it's a little bit more of a complex learning process. Some of that's changing. Some of the newer Power G sensors have already adopted this easier learn process where it's the battery's pre-installed. It has a battery pull tab. You don't have to physically tamper the sensor or get out a screwdriver to unscrew the sensor to pair it or hold an enroll button. So we're getting there with Power G, but it's not quite there all the way across the line. And so that's the reason, Frank, that's the reason that we have drawn the line here. You may not feel that same way or choose to do it that way, but we kind of felt like a little bit simpler, more hands-off install is a little bit more conducive with S-Line than a white glove install is a little bit more conducive for Power G. So that's exactly the reason we drew that there. But really, really astute question. So as we kind of dive in here and we analyze these pieces a little bit further, and we strip away the blue and we kind of look at what we've deemed a green box or something that you would do as a customer or as a dealer, we just wanted to ask ourselves some questions, right? So we kind of wanted to look at these side by side, and in light glove, we're essentially saying, hey, there's not a lot for the dealer to do. You activate a commitment, you scan the IMEI, you box it, and you ship it. What kind of workspace would that take? Can an employee do it from home? Could a grounded technician do it? And then how are you tracking and verifying their work? And maybe this doesn't change a lot, but from a white glove experience, you know, if you're doing all that, if you're activating a commitment, but you're also adding sensors, which will show you your powered boxes, you're powering up a panel, attaching the table stand and the power supply, which we'll talk about, and kind of doing a little bit more kitting and white glove experience. Maybe they need a little bit different workspace. Can they still do that from home? Do they need a larger space? Would they need any type of additional boxes on hand? Maybe you're going to take it out of our box and put it in a custom self-install box, a larger box, so it can ship with the table stand pre-installed. So we're going to kind of go through each of these pieces, and we're going to show you some of these as we get into the hair. But these are some questions that we've thought of. These are some questions we wanted to pose to you and get you thinking about. How would you do this when it comes down to it in practice for employees in this type of environment, right? So that's a good segue here into the Alarm.com partner portal. And I'm pretty sure that everybody's familiar with the partner portal. You probably spend a lot of time in there. Certainly if you're a Qolsys customer, then you're an Alarm.com customer and you're creating your accounts in the partner portal, or at least managing accounts in the partner portal. And so we're going to spend some time in there today. One of the things we wanted to mention is that, you know, we really feel like we have a best-in-class integration, powerful tool, but not all integrations are created equal. And the way that Qolsys has developed really since day one is that we strive to have everything that you can do on the panel locally, we really want you to be able to do from the back end, from the Alarm.com partner portal. That goes for things that an end user might do, whether it's just simple daily control or user code management or whatever else that might be, as well as things that you might do as a dealer. So adding sensors, deleting sensors, access to all of the different settings, and really making sure that that's a tight integration. You know, if you're familiar with Qolsys, you know that one of the constants is change. We're always introducing new features, new updates, new software, always trying to push that ball forward. And that takes a constant integration with Alarm.com to make sure the back end and the panel are matched well and working well together. So some things that we're going to show you is we're going to talk about panel templates, and we'll show you how to do that. We're going to talk about activating a commitment. We'll talk about bulk adding sensors. And then we're going to bring up a subject about pausing notifications. And we'll talk about web services versus doing it directly from the partner portal. So let's go ahead and dive right in on that. I wanted to get another poll question going here, Jeremy. We've got a poll about templates specifically. And we wanted to ask you, have you ever created a panel template in Alarm.com before? And then we're going to have a follow-up second poll here in just a minute, but let's go ahead and get this one done before. Be interesting to see how many of you have. So we'll let that go here a little bit.
And like Kevin, for those that don't know what a panel template is, can you explain that real quick? Because, you know, some people that might be answering no might not realize they're doing it or might not know what it is.
Yeah, sure. So A panel template allows you to customize the programming on a panel for your organization, and it can be done kind of automatically and systematically across the board, right? So traditionally, when you get a brand new panel from Qolsys, it comes with a default set of programming built in. These are kind of the manufacturer's defaults, right? Some of these defaults you may want to change, and in the old days when I was a tech, I had a little cheat sheet, and we would go down and we would, hand program every single panel according to our company's specifications. And, maybe we change a dialer delay, maybe we change an entry or an exit delay. We change the installer code, the dealer code. We turn off certain values or turn on certain values. And a panel template simply allows you to go ahead and set that up automatically, so that it saves the technician time, and B, it's done automatically across all your accounts or across that account when it gets created, and just really makes for a nice, consistent experience. So we're going to show you what that means in the world of self-install or assisted install, light glove, white glove installation here. And it looks like about 75% of you had not personally created a panel template. So maybe you haven't created a panel template on your own, but do you know if your company uses a panel template as a standard? Is this something that you guys are actually employing across your organization? Do your panels self-program? Is a template being pushed down on every job? So we'll give it a sec here. We're getting a real fast response rate here.
When I see a high percentage of no's, and I wonder if part of that is because the default settings that come with the panel are ones that, fit most of those scenarios. If you think about it, we set those default settings based on feedback from the field, feedback from our customers to say, this is what I want my entry exit delay to be. This is what I want my dialer delay to be. And as they understand those, that works pretty well. And if it wasn't something that they, that the standard would work, that's when you'd want to really employ a template.
Yeah, and looks like we're about 50-50 yes and no, and then a chunk that are not sure. So I really appreciate the responses here on the poll. This will help us as we kind of manage the conversation here going forward. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually jump out of the PowerPoint here, and we're going to physically go create this template on alarm.com. We're going to show you how to do that here. So I'm going to jump over to my partner portal, and this is just the regular partner portal login. And again, a panel template is something that you want to do ahead of time, right? So this is something, it doesn't have to be for each specific account. This is something that I would set up ahead of time. So I'm going to go up here to customers. I'm going to go over to customer configuration. And when I click on customer configuration, I've got a bunch of different features. I've got packages, panels, features, and monitoring. I want to simply go to panels. And you're going to see here that we have a whole bunch of templates. We have some templates for our first generation IQ panels. We have a lot of templates for our second generation panel. And these are all templates that our team is using. We test with templates all the time. We create different templates for all kinds of different scenarios that we run. But we're going to go ahead and create a brand new template here, and we'll show that to you today because I want to point out some very specific things that you can use in a panel template that will help you in a light glove or a white glove installation, wherever you decide to draw these lines in the sand. So I click on create new template. I've got a panel type, and of course, we're going to ignore all these other panels, and we're going to click on IQ Panel 2. Now, when you click on IQ Panel 2, it's going to ask you which software version do you have. One of the things about panel templates is you don't actually have to know what software version you have. Think of it this way. Every time that we release new software, many times we'll add new features or new settings. And so I think of these as kind of like a moment in time. But if when I create a template, if I create the latest one, so let's say I have some additional templates here you guys aren't going to be able to see because of my developer access. So we're working on a 252 and a 260 here. I mentioned we're always working on something new. But let's go ahead and create a 250 template, which would be the latest and greatest template. Now, if I create a 250 template, this is just going to give me access to all the settings that are in 250. If it ends up pushing to a panel that's on 242 or 234 or an older version, that's okay. It just means that some of those settings that are available in this template may not actually be available in the panel it gets pushed to, and so those settings are just going to get thrown away as part of that actual template. So I always like to select the highest template available, and then I kind of use that as my default going forward. I'll keep my templates updated through time as Qolsys releases new software. Maybe I go replicate that template with the newer software version. So we're going to go ahead and make this a template name. Now, one of the cool things is you can have, let's call it Wizard Workshop template. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and create this template. One of the cool things is you can have multiple templates, right? So if you want to have a template for your pro install, you can do that. If you want to have a template for your, assisted self-install, you can have a separate template for that, because maybe you want to change these settings based on that. I also see templates for different regions of the country. Maybe you're a national company and you do things different in Seattle than you do in Florida. And so you want to have different templates for different regions, different templates for different branches, different templates for different verticals of business, builder, MDU, whatever it might be. And so lots of customizable and lots of flexibility here in the template world. But we're going to create this template, and I want to point out a few specific settings here. So one kind of pro tip is the settings are all jumbled up, but if I click setting name right here, it's going to go ahead and sort these settings alphabetically. And that then allows me to get a much easier, simpler view of all the possible settings. Now, if you're familiar with the panel, you're going to notice virtually all the panel settings here are available for a 10. And I'm going to expand this to 1,000 rows. Remember, I mentioned we have best-in-class integrations. So there's a lot of choices here because there's a lot of choices in the panel. But I want to
Kevin, we got a good question here.
Sure.
With all that many settings in there, is there a way to search for a particular setting on that page?
Well, that is a good question. If it was me, I would use, I'm on a Mac, I'd use Command F, but I think on a PC it's Control F, I believe. And then I would just use my regular search bar up here at the top. So I don't see a built-in search bar.
So if you wanted to look for duress code, for example, you could go in and type the word duress in your, Control F or Command F, do a search for duress, and voila, it pulls it up. And that's just built into your browser. So good question. Thank you for that.
Exactly.
The second question is there any limit to the number of different templates you could make?
That's a great question. I'm not aware of a limit. There probably is a top end at some point. You can see that we have, 50 plus templates probably up and running right now. So I'm not aware of a template, but really good question. Or a max.
And if you think about it, most people are probably only going to have a few sets, right? You're going to have, like Kevin mentioned, you're going to have a commercial one, you're going to have a residential one. You might have one for MDU or builder, things like that. You might have, it's almost more about different scenarios. If you think about a template as a scenario that you'd want to push it down. And just because you apply a template doesn't mean you can't make a change to a panel too, right? You could apply a template and still walk into, go into the panel manually and make an additional setting either through AirFX or through the partner portal or locally on the panel.
Okay, so what we're going to focus on today for this template, I happen to like all the default settings that are in here, except for the actual installation wizard. And again, hopefully you're familiar with the installation wizard and you've either powered up a Qolsys panel before, or you got to see the webinar last week where we actually used the installation wizard in the light glove scenario. And remember, in the light glove scenario, the installation wizard is doing a lot, right? It's actually, so we leave pretty much all the installation wizard in place for the light glove scenario, or at least most of it. And maybe in a white glove scenario, we want to tune down the installation wizard because we're going to do more ahead of time, and we don't want the duplication. We don't want the customer to see some of these pages. So you can see that all these wizard pages are actually customizable. So for this, I'm going to assume this is a white glove install. We're going to do a little bit more ahead, more prep on our side. And therefore, I want the installation wizard, by the time the customer gets it, to be pretty simple. The first page of the installation wizard is connect to Wi-Fi. That's not an optional page. That's not something that can be turned off. You get that page every single time. So they're going to have that. That way, when they power it up, the first thing we want them to do is connect to Wi-Fi. The next wizard page is system settings or system check, where it actually goes through and runs a system check on the panel. And at that same time, it actually downloads the panel template, right? So that it then knows, once the panel template's downloaded, what settings should be changed at the panel level, but also what subsequent wizard pages should be hidden. So one of the cool things about this is literally in the midstream of the wizard, a panel template can come in through a page we've designed, and it will actually change the remaining 80% of the wizard to turn things on or off, or show things or not show things. So it can kind of dynamically adjust right in the middle of that first power up. So for example, I'm gonna go ahead and leave Bluetooth devices on because that's something I want the customer to do, and that's really easy for them to do. I'm gonna turn off the dealer step. This gives you the ability to have your dealer contact info manually changed by a technician, but we're gonna push that down automatically anyway. So I'm gonna turn off that step. I don't want my customer to see that. So that's gonna change. I'm gonna scroll back down here. I'm gonna turn off the IQ remote page. I don't want them to see a page asking them to add IQ remotes, because in this particular instance, they're not gonna get a secondary keypad. I'm gonna even, and then there's something else you can do here. You see on the security setup page, you can choose between advanced and simple. So if I was gonna present them a security page to add a security sensor, which page do I want them to get? Do I want them to get the advanced page, which is kind of the default standard for pro technicians? Or do I want them to get the simple page, which is really a simplified pairing process where we reduce the number of options they can see, make it much easier. So I'll select simple, but in fact, what we're gonna do here is we're actually just gonna go ahead and turn that page off altogether, because I'm gonna show you how to pre-pair sensors here. So the sensor step is enabled. I'm gonna turn off the sensor step here. So let's turn that off. This way they won't even be prompted to add any sensors, because again, we're gonna for them. The sensor test I wanna leave. So we're gonna add the sensors for them, but we want them to be prompted to connect to Wi-Fi. It'll do the download. Then it's gonna ask them just to test their sensors, and their sensors are already gonna be there. We're gonna turn off the software update because we're gonna make sure this is already updated before we ship it. Okay, and I'm going to leave the user code step on because I want them to set up user codes, and I'm going to turn off the Z-Wave device step because in this scenario, they're not getting any Z-Wave devices from me. This is a simple 3-1 kit we're going to do here today. So now I've got this panel template set up. It's saved. We've turned off the vast majority of the wizard pages, and we're ready to go. Now this will show up under my account creation page as Wizard Workshop Template. So when I go ahead and create the account or create a commitment, whichever one I'm doing, there's a question at the very end of that that's going to ask you, do you want to push down a panel template? You can even have that push automatically. So if I come back here to customer configuration, you choose right here. There's a little checkbox. If the panel has a template defined, apply it automatically, or so that's off or on. And if I leave that checkbox off, then I have to say at the time of account creation, push down and it gives you a drop-down box. For example, push down the Wizard Workshop template to this panel. So you can have a whole list of templates you apply, and you choose what they're going to go ahead and get at the time of account creation. Okay, so let's go back here to this. So we've done the template demo, and Jeremy, are there any pertinent questions as far as templates are concerned before we move on? Because this is something you would set up ahead of time.
Just comments that everybody really loves what you shared. Chuck says, this is, you're making great points. We're excited. Mark says he wants to be able to share this, tutorial with the rest of his team. Can't wait to share, the link when the recorded link, so we can share it with others. So I think people are really enjoying this. So, thank you again for walking us through that. And we know that this is not, this is certainly related to Qolsys. This is an alarm.com function. This is something you might normally expect to, learn from alarm.com, but, we want to do this as part of our partnership with alarm.com and with you to help know how you can best apply the things that we've done, in that connection between alarm.com cloud and the IQ panel. So thank you for the comments so far, and please keep those.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate that. Okay. So we've set this up ahead of time. This is kind of a one-shot deal. You could set up multiple templates. They only have to do it once. And once you're set up and running, then we're going to go ahead and move forward with the accounts here. So activating commitments. And again, I'm going to jump back to alarm.com here, and I'll go to my home screen here. But there's a couple different ways in alarm.com to create a customer. You can just create a customer from A to Z, right? Or you can create what's called a commitment. And I really like the commitment tool. It mimics a lot of people's sales processes. Maybe you get a lead, you get a sale, you go create the customer's information, you create the commitment. In the old days, we would call that a shell account, right? So you create the shell of the account, and then you go ahead and cut that shell in, or you activate that commitment. So I created a commitment ahead of time for myself, and that happens to be for my house here. So I've got this commitment set up. It's got my name, my information, my phone, my email, all that kind of stuff, my address. And now I'm essentially acting as the installer, right? But whether I'm an installer in a customer's home or an installer in a warehouse, in the customer's home, I have a drill. In the warehouse, I have a scan gun. This is my new drill. And we're going to show you how to go ahead and activate this commitment with this scan gun here. So I simply click on the commitment or the install for the day here. It knows that it's going to be a Verizon panel and an IQ panel too. I've got the 15-digit module serial number. Now, I go to my stock room, I get a panel out, and this is where that never open a box concept comes in. But I've got my IMEI here, and this is printed on the outside of all of our boxes. We've got 3 different barcodes here, and you want the IMEI barcode. Now, I bought this scan gun for, I had like a $15 one from Amazon, and I upgraded to a little bit nicer one. This can do QR codes and all kinds of stuff. I think this was $40, $45 off Amazon. And it's just a USB scanner. I don't need any special software. It plugs directly into my computer, and it saves me time and makes me a little more accurate. So I could manually type in this 15-digit IMEI here on my keyboard, or I can just simply go ahead and scan it here. So we'll turn the gun on, and we'll scan it. And you see that IMEI populate directly there into the alarm.com field. Now, one tip on this scanner, and I'll show you this a little bit later as well, is out of the box, when I scan a barcode, it would automatically hit enter. But it comes with a little booklet, and it's a little programming booklet of barcodes, and you can scan certain barcodes to change the behavior of the scanner. I scanned the barcode that turns off that automatic return after scanning a barcode. And I did that so I can scan multiple barcodes in a row, which you'll see in a little bit when we're adding sensors into the bulk add sensor tool. So I can add all my barcodes, all my DL codes, and then hit enter one time. So that's just a little pro tip for the scanner. A lot of them are configurable. I really like it with the automatic enter function turned off. That means all I have to do now is hit create customer, right? And that's going to go ahead and create this customer.
Kevin, we've got a question about the scan gun. Will any USB scan gun work on Amazon? How do we know to buy the right one?
Yeah, so I pretty much they all work. I did a little research. I wanted to buy one that did simple barcodes as well as QR codes. My $15 one I had only did barcode. It didn't do QR. You don't have to have QR for the Qolsys ones. The Power G ones do have a QR code on it. That's something we're kind of working through. Like I mentioned, that's not day. But if you'd like, I'm happy to send out the link, Jeremy, to the exact one I bought. Again, I think it was like $45. I've been very happy with it. The wireless, I have it plugged in, but it comes with a little wireless dongle, so it can be fully wireless and has a little battery inside of it and stuff like that. So, but just about any USB scanner will work. Again, no software.
Next question is, how does the scanner know where to put the QR code?
Okay, so it's just wherever you had your cursor. So I clicked that field. I had my cursor sitting in that field, and then the next barcode you scan, it just enters wherever your cursor was. And we'll show you that here in a little bit when we add sensors, which we're about to
And if your
to.
cursor's, in there, obviously you could still be typing. You could use the keyboard and type out the IMEI. This is really just a shortcut, so you don't have to worry about it, and you don't make mistakes, right?
That's right. It's a shortcut. It speeds me up, and it prevents errors, which is why I like it. You could certainly just hand type right into the field in alarm.com. You bet. Okay, so I've created my commitment, or activated my commitment. Super easy, right? So this panel is now tied to this account you see on the screen. I could print the welcome letter to have that in the box, or I could email the customer the welcome letter, and they would get it that way. So pretty straightforward process from an account creation perspective. Let's go back and talk about adding sensors. Now, remember, in a light glove scenario, what we were saying was This is now tied to the customer. You can put sensors in the shipping box, ship it to the customer, and they would add the sensors themselves through the installation wizard. In a white glove scenario, which we want to spend a little time on today, we're going to pre-add these sensors. Now, there's a lot of ways I could do that, right? I could go at this point right now, and I could open up this box here, right? And I could take the panel out, and I could power it up, and I could go through the wizard myself, or I could hand program these sensors. I could use the onboard panel camera to scan the QR code for these sensors, which would work well. But I like to do it remotely, and here's why. Presumably, I'm not the only one doing this. Maybe if I power my panel up, or maybe if I'm not doing this at home, if I'm doing this with other technicians, 6 feet apart, of course, in a warehouse or at the office, for some of you that are still doing that, opening and closing sensors creates a lot of RF traffic, right? And so I might open and close my sensor, and then the technician next to me or down the hall from me, he picks that up in his panel as he's trying to add sensors. And so in a heavy RF environment, or in kind of a bulk add environment where you're doing lots of pre-provisioning, auto learn is not the best scenario. Inside a home on a pro install, we love auto learn. That's what we want you to do. We want you to auto learn the sensors. It's really easy, really simple. But auto learn may not be the best for this exact scenario. So I prefer manual add, which you can manually type in the DL code into the panel, the barcode scan on the panel interface, or just remotely learning them in through AirFX, and that's what we're going to show you here today. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my little link down here below, and it's going to launch me right to the bulk add sensor page for this account. So you can see here that we're on my account right here, and I land directly at the bulk add sensor page. And this is something we worked with Alarm.com on, so we can actually bulk add sensors directly into Alarm.com. So the way we do that is we start up here at the top, and notice I put my cursor in here. I'm going to define this as zone 1, and I just keep tabbing across, and I'm going to type front door. And when my cursor gets to DL code, again, I can manually type in the DL code, and that's right here. It's 6 digits. It's on this box. Or I can just take my scanner, right? And let me get this powered up here, and it will scan that DL code for me. Now, this is where it's important that I turned off that enter function on my scanner, because if it automatically hit enter right now, it would try add this sensor, and I'd have to wait for the page to refresh, and that kind of defeats the purpose of the bulk add page. So I'll go down here to 2, and I'm going to say backdoor. And again, this could be sensor 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe you don't know where they're going to be, right? And I'm going to go sensor 3. And I'm going to say garage door. And I'm going to scan this sensor here.
While he's scanning that, you guys, there's several questions about where we could get that. Could we get links to the scanner? You know, we're certainly happy to share the link that Kevin did, but just so you're aware, you could literally just do a search on Amazon for USB barcode scanner, and you're going to get tons and tons of results. You know, if you find one that can also do, you know, QR codes and USB, Mohammed confirms that any 2D barcode USB scanner works. You know, he commented on that as well. You know, there's ones in there that are wired and you plug it into your computer. There's ones that are wireless. You know, any of those work. Kevin's is wireless and has a plug that he can, you know, plug in when the battery is dead, but it can also do it wirelessly as well. So it really depends on how much you want to spend and what you want to do, but it looks like there's lots and lots of choices out there. So thank you for the comments and the questions.
Yeah, and this one's made by Terra, T-E-R-A, if you want to search that one up. Again, I've owned a couple of these through the years. Some are better than others. Some are a little more finicky and harder to scan. I've been really impressed with this one. It's very easy to scan. It's about $45 and does them all. So I'm going to hit this motion this time. So all I did was I changed the sensor type to motion, and we'll scan that DL code. And oh, look at that. See, I got the wrong barcode. It says there invalid DL code. So Alarm.com was smart enough to know that here, right? All right, there we got the right one. Okay.
Kevin, Mike made the comment that if you don't want to wait for Amazon, that you could also potentially pick it up at a Home Depot as well. So another great idea. Thank you, Mike.
Yep, thanks. And you can see on the Alarm.com bulk ad page here, they even have an example barcode showing which number you're looking for there, right? The little DL code is what we call that. So I've got all these added in for just kind of sitting here waiting. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click add sensor, and it is now going to save this in the cloud. Now, remember, this panel has not yet talked to the Alarm.com backend. I've associated the IMEI to the account. I've now told the sensors to push down to the panel, but the panel hasn't talked to the backend. And the cool thing is when the panel powers on, which again could be in your warehouse, I could power it up right now using additional testing. I could add some Power G devices or some Z-Wave devices, get it back up and ship it to the customer. Or I'm kind of doing a hybrid light glove, white glove right now, where I'm pre-learning in sensors, but I'm still not going to open a box for today's demo. And when the customer opens this box, those sensors are magically going to be there, pre-programmed, all the names, everything ready to go. So we're gonna move on from the bulk add sensors here.
We do have a quick poll question. I want to know if
Sure.
you've ever remotely added a sensor through Alarm.com's AirFX function. So, you know, if this was a new thing for you, as you saw that Kevin demonstrating today, or if this is something you're familiar with and comfortable with. And Mauricio made a great comment here, Kevin. He says he's got 550 IQ panels to install, and that this gun feature, that using the scan feature and the bulk add sensors, is going to be a tremendous help and help him get through that workload. So Mauricio, thank you for that, and very, very best of luck in all your installs. I can only assume he's using this down opportunity to do some LTE upgrades for his customer database. So good for you, Mauricio.
And looks like almost 50-50 have remotely added the sensor.
Yeah.
A little bit more slanted towards you have not remotely added a sensor. So it's a good time to do that if you'd like, and the scan gun will certainly help you out. Now there is one more thing we want to consider here when you're doing an installation like this. Let me back up here, and that is pausing notifications. And we've gotten some good feedback from customers. This isn't something I had thought of. This is something that came out of conversations over the last week or two with many of you. And that is that if I pre-create this customer and I pre-scan these sensors, that customer might start to get notifications into their email while this is in the mail or before this gets delivered to their house. And so that might be something we want to pause. Now, there's two ways to do that. Many of you are larger companies. You might be using web services or APIs to create accounts inside of Alarm.com. And Alarm.com has a really robust web service protocol and lots of stuff that you can do from the partner portal. You can do from a web service, which means you could be working in your own CRM, your own program, to add these sensors or to pause notifications, to do all kinds of stuff. It uses a web service to write to the Alarm.com backend for that customer instead of actually doing it in the partner portal. So just know that if you use a web service, there is a web service call, an API call, to go pause notifications for that customer. If you're not using a web service, you can do it directly from the partner portal. So again, you're gonna come up here to customers. You're gonna go to customer configuration, and remember, panels is where we set the panel template. We're gonna go to features instead. And on features, if we scroll down, there's a link right here that says pause notifications. And it says pause default notifications, and I can choose how many days I want to pause these default notifications for. So there's just an option there for you to think about as you get going and create these accounts here. Okay, so we won't spend a ton of time there. A couple other quick things I want to talk about. And that is some of the features in the panel that actually support these types of installs or support remote installing. One of them is that we ship this with the battery pre-plugged in. That means, again, if you don't want to open a box, you don't have to. The battery's already plugged in here, ready to go, and the customer doesn't have to open up the clamshell or the plastic backplate to get access to it to then plug it in. If you do open a box and you do some testing ahead of time, the nice thing is that you can use the power down feature inside the panel, and you can actually ship it with the battery plugged in. So that's the way we ship it to you. You can ship it to the customer that way. Just by when you're done doing all your hand programming, you actually go into the panel, you hit power down, it powers down like a computer. The next time it powers back up, it'll be ready to go. The table stand is toolless. Again, you can click it in ahead of time, or the customer can do that. The power uses a barrel jack. It's very easy. It has some built-in strain relief. And again, you can do it ahead of time, or the customer can do that. The sensors all have die-cut adhesive and battery pull tabs for the most part. There are a few sensors that don't have adhesive. So something you're going to want to think about, right? This is something we ran into a little bit with our motion detector. We ship it with screws. Now, you might say, I want my customer to screw it to the wall, and that's totally fine. You can absolutely do that. If you don't want to do that, though, you might want them to actually use some tape. And let me see if I can find my tape here. I thought I had it. Oh, I do. We found that command strips work really well, especially if you're going to go back in 90 days and do a professional install, which is one of the things we talked about last week, is that get them up and running right now, and then you might choose to go back and do a professional install after the fact, offer to get that panel off the table stand and on the wall. Maybe you decide to remount their motion detector in a slightly different location, and the command strips come off the wall really nice and clean. They also happen to work really well. A couple years ago, we redesigned our motion detector backplate, and we call it the goof-proof backplate. It used to have two separate angles, and so you could kind of, if you didn't really know what you were doing and you didn't have it at the right install height, you could get some bad detections, or you wouldn't have optimal detection, I guess I should say. And the new backplate is a single design, and so it's especially conducive to this type of installation where you can use 2 or 3 command strips here just to get to the wall, and it really holds nicely. And then again, you can choose to pro install that later. But that's something you want to think about. Maybe you're doing a glass break, maybe you're doing a smoke detector. How are they going to install that? Are you going to have them screw it to the wall with the included screws, or are you going to provide some additional adhesive for this type of installation? And then the last thing we want you to think about a little bit is shipping. Depending on your level of customization and depending on your level of white glove and kind of prep work here, you may choose, it may not fit back in the Qolsys box, right? Like if you're going to pre-attach the stand and pre-attach the power, it may not fit back in here. You may want to use a custom box where they can just literally take it out, set it down, and plug it in. You may want to pre-attach the power, and then it will fit back in, but leave the stand off and assume that the stand is easy enough for them. So again, all these different lines in the sand, you kind of choose how much you want to do or not. All right, we got some noise on the line here.
Oh, sorry, it was just me showing everyone my table stand and how it doesn't fit back in the box. So,
all right,
yeah,
perfect.
I mean, obviously, if you're going to ship it like that, you'd need a different type of box for it. So, those are, important decisions to make. Another nice thing is that the command strips, just as a side note, the command strips do fit perfectly on the back of that motion sensor. So, just regular command strips don't need to be trimmed or anything like that. It's a really nice thing. And that wasn't planned. That just happened to work out perfectly.
All right, so a couple other things to think about, delivery methods, and we've seen a lot of really good suggestions. We have multiple partners doing it multiple different ways. Are you going to use UPS, I guess USPS, UPS, or FedEx? How are you going to track delivery and confirmation? Are you going to set up a virtual appointment ahead of time? Are you going to use your own technicians as delivery people? Maybe they want to set it on the porch and actually do a video conference through the door, right? Or from around the corner, or later the next day, or whatever it might be. There's lots and lots of different ways to have these packages delivered. But the one thing that we wanted to share as a best practice is make sure you're tracking it somehow. We have found through this process that kitting up and doing everything we're talking about and getting it shipped out is pretty doable, but you don't want that package just to show up on somebody's doorstep and then sit on their kitchen counter for 2 weeks, right? You want to be proactively reaching out. You want to have a delivery notification so that you either know when it gets delivered after the fact, or you might know ahead of time. And maybe that's something you want to set up with your customer as part of the sales process. Hey, we're going to ship this 3-day. That means it's going to show up on Thursday. It'll be there before 10 a.m. Can we set up a virtual pro install between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. on Thursday? And maybe that's something you get set up actually ahead of time before it delivers. Maybe it's something that once it delivers, you start an outreach campaign saying, hey, your package got delivered. Or maybe you include a little card in the package that says, when they open it up, it says, call us first. Maybe you want them to call you for that virtual pro install instead of kind of waiting for them to work through it themselves and for you to get a call after the fact. So those are all things you want to be thinking about as you dive into this process. How are you going to get in touch with that customer? How are you going to make sure this gets set up?
I love the idea of professional installers that are grounded now having a purpose, to potentially even do the work. They could be scanning the things. They might even have their trucks parked at their house with all their equipment on it. They could be the ones putting all these things together, driving over to the house, and then dropping it off on the porch. In fact, on our webinar we had earlier today for sales and marketing, one of the people in the webinar said that they would actually deliver the packages, knock on the customer's door, stand back 6 or 7 feet, make sure the customer got the package, say, if you want, I'm happy to wait out here in the yard as you plug it in and get everything going, and I'll help you with any questions, here. And if you don't want to, don't want me to yell at me from the front porch, you can call me and we can do a FaceTime or things like that. So I think that's a great implementation of this kind of thing, and another great use of the, service technicians and installation technicians that are in the field already that, have a purpose and are, again, potentially grounded. Great results on our poll today too. I think, I actually don't mind sharing this particular poll. It looks like 36% are going to use, UPS, FedEx, or some other shipper, and then 64 think hand delivery by technician is the right approach for them. So really appreciate that. Also, got a couple questions here that we wanted to answer real quick. Eric asks, can we change the installer and dealer codes so that the homeowners or other companies can't take over a light glove installation? Absolutely, you can do that. I think that's a great tip, and that's something that everybody should be doing with all of their systems, is going through and making sure that your installer code, your dealer code is associated with your systems that you install. Eric also wants to
quickly,
know,
Jeremy,
what do you do
Jeremy,
yeah, please.
I wanted to add on to that. One of the other best practices that we talked about on a previous call a couple of weeks ago is that you also want to activate, and I've got a guest coming in here. My son just walked into the room. But you also want to, part of acting ahead of time before you ship it, even if you didn't change your installer or dealer code, that locks that panel to your dealer ID. So even if someone had access to that installer or dealer code, because you've locked that IMEI to your customer, to your dealer account, that panel's locked to you. So that's another safeguard.
Mm-hmm. Eric wants to know, what do you do for corner installs with the new motion sensor design? Well, if you can see my camera, you can see it's got these slanted walls on it, and it will absolutely fit in a corner. In this particular instance, what I would do is instead, and I've seen other people do this as well, is you do the command strip almost on the side and wrap it around this way. So see how that command strip now gets wrapped around. I've already stuck it, so it won't stick now, but on that type of install, you would wrap it this way. That way, when they peel it off, it would stick in the corner, or it would stick flat. Either way they do it, and you'd only have to install the strips once. The other option would be that you simply provide the command strips, and again, the never open a box type scenario. You just simply provide the command strips and let the consumer decide where they want to put it on the motion sensor and install it. Chaz makes a great comment here. He says, I'm programming the panel from my home and verifying signals, either drops off the kit on their front door and then sends them a video on how to set it up, or I wear a mask and gloves to put door sensors up and things like that. So it's a great solution, Chaz. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and we've got a couple slides left here. We are fast approaching our time limit here, so I want to get through these last couple thoughts here. But really, really great experience, great details so far. Again, if you were on the webinar last week, you saw our new user startup guide. This is a simplified guide that really walks the user through that. Maybe this is something you want to do for a light glove because you're going to rely on them to do a little bit more. Or maybe it's that mix match of light glove, white glove, right? And you still want to include this. If you reach out, you can download this from our dealer portal. I won't show you where to get that right now, but it's right there in the download section. Or if you reach out to our marketing team, marketing@qolsys.com, and you want the raw files, you can get that. Again, we've got these outlined in steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. But maybe you want to take step 1, step 3, step 5, and 7, and you want to combine that into 1, 2, 3, 4 on your own guide. We're happy to share these assets with you so that you can kind of customize this and come up with what works for your mix and match of light glove, white glove. And then, of course, you've got the on-screen wizard to walk the end user through it as well. On the white glove, maybe you do it a little bit differently. Again, maybe you do include pieces and parts of that quick guide, or that user startup guide, or maybe you insert a card that says, hey, call us to get started. And maybe that's using some type of video conferencing software. We've heard a lot of people using FaceTime. We've heard a lot of good things about Google Duo. Now, I'm not super familiar with Google Duo, but supposedly one of its benefits is that it works across many different platforms, right? So maybe you have Android, your customer has Apple, or vice versa. You don't all have to have the exact same device or style of device in order for Google Duo to work. There's many others. There's WhatsApp, there's Skype, there's a lot of other apps out there. I wanted to take a quick poll here, Jeremy, on if any of you are using any type of video conferencing today in your organization as it relates to helping an end user, right? End user support. Maybe it's traditional tech support. Maybe it's some other type of support. Is anybody using any type of video conferencing software today? Not internal, not conference calls, not Zoom, stuff like that, but actually for customer support. Is that something you've been able to implement, either from a PC or a mobile device or anything like that? And if so, which one? Getting some really good,
interesting poll
really good
results
answers
here too. Yeah. 45% so far are saying no, they don't use any at all, which is expected. I mean, that's not been our business model up to this point, but as we go into this new world and this new way of doing business, obviously we're turning on cameras today for our webinar. Many of you probably attended many other webinars and events where you turned on cameras and are interacting with people digitally. This is going to become the new norm. And I think, Apple, Google, and Samsung and so many other companies have done a very good job building solutions for us so that now we have a choice of which one to use. And all it is just a matter of doing it. It was a much different world a few years ago when you said, hey, let's have a video chat, and people are like, well, how am I going to do that? Because I don't have a device that can do that. Now everyone's got a smartphone that's got a camera on it, and it's highly unlikely that they don't have a mode to video chat. So I think we'll see a big uptick in the number of people doing it. Eric says he recommends using Google Hangouts and Meet. Chad says he uses Microsoft Teams for commercial customers. And Eric also mentions one of the challenges with Duo and FaceTime is that it's mobile only, so you can't do it at a computer, and therefore you couldn't do a screen share, which may be important in a commercial type install. So those are all really good points, you guys. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. And a couple last thoughts here as we kind of make our way through the end here. Obviously, at the end of the install, you're going to want to have some type of activation call, whether this is at the end of the Virtual Pro install that you did with them via FaceTime or Duo or whatever app you're using, or whether it's more of a light glove situation and you're saying, hey, when you get done with the Easy Install Wizard, go ahead and give us a call. Certainly a do there, right? A big one for me, not being in the home, would be that I want to understand how strongly those signals are communicating. Are they on the edge? Are they communicating strong? Or are they going to have a problem, 2 days from now, a week from now, a month from now? So I want to show you that real quick on how to verify signal strength remotely from alarm.com. Of course, they would have done that as part of the install wizard. In our scenario, we left that page on, but we still want to make sure that they are actually strong and verify that for ourselves. Also, they're going to need to test the system, right? They're going to need to play burglar, arm it, trip everything. That's a really good user experience for them. They get to hear it, see it, function. You get to see those signals come into your central station. You're obviously going to want to make sure they've downloaded and that they can get logged into that, and then any other types of customer instruction or ability questions that they may have. So practical side here, we're going to go in and we're going to go ahead and show you how to check the sensor signal strength remotely if you don't know how. So I'm going to search for an account that I have here real quick. Let me do that just real quick like. And I'm going to look at our office here. And I like to use the AirFX Legacy Toolkit for this. And if I come over here under the sensor settings, right here I've got Security RF Signal Strength. And one of the cool things about this tool, is that I can actually see all the sensors, how they're programmed, their name. You can see this is our office in Utah that we have. And sensor number 8 is really important. That's the fridge, aka the Diet Coke fridge, if you know me. So I've got to make sure that thing's protected and closed and cool and all that kind of stuff, and it's got a strong signal. Now the good thing is that this will actually keep track over time, the last known signal strength as well as the average signal strength. So every time the customer is opening and closing and testing, we're collecting some of that data. If the data hasn't made it here yet, request a new signal strength from the panel, and it will go down and actually request that. Okay, a couple other things here as we wrap up the call, you guys. Really appreciate everybody being on. We want to make sure that you can support your customers, but we also want to make sure that you feel supported by us. There are a lot of the ways that we do that. These webinars are one of them. We also have a lot of Facebook groups. We call these closed Facebook groups. Highly recommend that you go on and sign up for these Facebook groups. It's an awesome network of dealers like yourselves helping each other. We moderate and monitor a lot of these Facebook groups personally. We're on there all the time, correcting misinformation and myths, and also helping everybody out. So there's one called QolsysAndAlarm.com installers. There's one called official Qolsys technicians and installers. And then we also really like the Burglar Alarms Online page run by Jake Bull, a great partner of ours, and he does a good job with that page as well. So between these three pages, we really, really like these pages from a technical and kind of installation perspective. We also have the Qolsys Dealer Portal. I didn't get time to show you this today, but there's a lot of really good content on here. There's videos, there's marketing, there's all the materials we've talked about today, the product flyers, the handouts that are on there are on the portal today. If you don't yet have access to our dealer portal, please sign up. It's very simple to do. All you have to do is go to dealers.qolsys.com and click on register. It will ask you some information about you and who you are and who you work for. You'll create your own password of your choosing. That'll get submitted to our marketing team, and within about 24 hours or so, we will approve your portal access into our dealer portal. Make sure you have access to that. And one last reminder: all of the concepts and features that we talked about today, everything from light glove to white glove and all this remote access and things like that, they can be applied to a new customer, which is really the segment we've been addressing today. But they can also be applied to a takeover customer, right? So maybe it's a new customer, but they have an existing system, and that maybe that existing system is of another manufacturer. Maybe it's a DSC system, maybe it's a 2 gig or a Honeywell system. And just remember that we make a panel with a built-in takeover module for just about every flavor of alarm panel out there. So I've been showing you on the group today how to do it with 319 S-line sensors, but many of these same concepts can be applied to our silver box and our red box panel. And then, of course, one last thought we want to talk about today. A lot of people are taking the time now, kind of a blessing in disguise, as some of their new business may be down and they have bandwidth to do this, is to go after their current customer base, right? And that could typically mean we're talking about LTE upgrades here. So going out and upgrading all of your old accounts. And essentially in that case, maybe you're essentially taking over your own accounts. And so maybe you've got a mixed base of accounts on different subsets of panels, and you can certainly upgrade those to Qolsys with one of the three flavors of panels that we offer. It's also a great time to go work your current customer base for referrals, right? And Jeremy talked a lot about that on our webinar an hour or two ago. If you didn't have an opportunity to join that was recorded as well on the sales aspect side of it. This was more on the technical side of it. So that's all I have today. Jeremy, any last closing thoughts from the audience or comments before we sign off here?
Absolutely. There's actually quite a few here. So first off, Chaz says he pushes the signal from home and verifies the signals. When he gets on site, he plugs in at the front door and then, pushes the self-test again to make sure that goes. That's a great best practice, Chaz. And if you've got the ability to do that, that's awesome. Paul has a really thoughtful comment here, which I really, really like. He says, I recommend you including a pair of earplugs with the equipment for the customer to wear while they're testing the alarm and setting off the siren. I think that's brilliant. Very inexpensive, easy to obtain. You say, here's the thing, put those in before you test the siren. It's going to be very loud. Think about the subtle advertising you're doing right there, too, when you do that. I think that's really great, Paul. Thank you very much. Mike says, don't forget when you're delivering the customer's system to your door, you can also put up your stickers and your yard sign. Another brilliant idea.
I like that.
So thank you. Imagine, delivering your system and saying, well, I'm going to put the yard sign in here. I'm going to put your stickers on your windows. You want me to put any on the side windows or the back windows? I could do that too. Walk around the house safely. That's a great comment there. And I think, so many people have been coming up with these great ideas and talking about, the things we can do. One of the things we talked about today on the sales and marketing workshop that you alluded to a moment ago, Kevin, was talking about how this, literally could be a light glove or white glove install now, but there could still be a pro install down the road. There's no reason why a customer might not want to have their panel installed on the wall. And you could set an appointment for 90 days from now, more than that, when all this COVID nonsense is over, you could still say, I'm going to come out, I'm going to install that panel on the wall, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what opportunities you have in your home to protect your home even further. You've had this system now for several months. What do you like about it? What can we add? And use those opportunities between now and the time you actually come out for that full install to say, refer some friends and get some credit built up for other devices. And maybe I'll come out and I'll install cameras and I'll install thermostats and I'll install door locks. It instantly becomes an upgrade appointment for you where you get to come out and sell more stuff. And you've got a 3-month period or 4-month period, whatever that ends up being, where you can talk to your customer and encourage them to recommend friends or refer friends so that they can build up credit towards using, devices. And if you're currently using a program right now where you get a free month of service, I would really recommend changing it over to a program where they get device credit towards their pro install and their upgrades instead. I think you'll see some tremendous power out of that. We had some great feedback on today's sales and marketing webinar, on that specifically. Many of you are asking, is this webinar going to be recorded? Yes, we're recording it. We're going to post this on our YouTube channel later on today. You'll get a link in your email tomorrow if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, and you'll get a warning or an alert, I guess, right away when it gets uploaded. But we just want to say thank you again for all the time that Kevin's put into, putting this stuff together, and all of you that have participated and, shared your insights, your thoughts, and your best practices. This really is going to be great. But the conversation doesn't end here. Let's take this over to the Facebook groups. If you're not joining on those already, get, enrolled in those. And let's continue talking about it. Let's continue sharing ideas. As you're out at these homes, snap photographs, show us what's working, show us what's not working, and let's all work together to kind of refine this process to be the very best it can be and help support this industry in this very, very important time. Kevin, thank you for all the hard work. Everyone on the line, thank you for joining today. Really look forward to seeing you next time. Hope you have a wonderful time, and please stay safe out there.